Garden Shape Lessons is a 5-part series designed to develop skills with your youngest students at the very beginning of the year. Each lesson is going to focus on a different shape, but really your students are already going to know their shapes. What we're really focusing on is building skills and also getting your students familiar with the way your art room operates, where they should sit, how supplies are collected, and your classroom expectations. I make a folder in the beginning for each student, and we collect all 5 weeks in one folder. I do that partly because my kindergartners have lunch directly after art, and it's difficult for them to take things with them. You don't have to put it in a book. You can send it home week to week, but you will need a paper or a folder for this first lesson. Any old construction paper will do. And I generally use the construction paper that I have too much of. So if you have a color, say brown, that you have too much of and you would like to use up, this is a great opportunity. Our first week is going to be an introduction to the shapes. Then we're going to do squares, triangles, circles, and our last class will be on stencils that cover all sorts of shapes. We're going to start with some shape videos. These 4 are all good. They're really aimed at preschool, so this is good filler stuff if you've got extra time or if your students are a little bit younger. And again, the use of videos depends a lot on how long your classes are. Mine are 50 minutes, which is a long time for the littles, but if you have a shorter, say 35-minute class, you want to cut down on the videos. These are the ones I use every week. The shape name game is a total banger. This is going to get them up and moving. And the shape songs 2 is very mellow. When I need to get everybody sitting down or a little too wild, this is a little bit longer. It's good for passing out supplies, getting organized, while they watch the nice mellow shape song. Another go-to is this collection from the Storybots. They have a lot of different shape videos, and this one in particular is 12 minutes of quality shape entertainment. So if you have time to kill, if you need to have them engaged while you are getting something else setting up or cleaning up, go with the Storybots. So we've started our class, we've watched some videos, everybody's seated, and now we can talk about shapes. What shapes do you know? What shapes do you see in the room? What is this shape? Now, you're not going to really be teaching them shapes. They're going to know their shapes. But this is a great opportunity for them to share what they know, to get excited, to be able to raise their hand and tell you what they know about shapes. This is also an opportunity to set expectations of how you do discussions, question and answer in your room. So let's get to our project. I've got my construction paper folder here. I use the really big construction paper so that I can fold that in half, and that's going to make a 9x12 folder. Everything will fit in there. A number of different coloring sheets with simple shapes on them, some crayons, some scissors, and some glue stick. And it's just as easy as that. They can cut, color, and glue any way they want, anywhere they want. The only problem is getting them not to cut up the base paper. Remember, they're just at the earliest stage of developing their skills. Here's some pictures of my friends. On the right, you can see I had some foam shapes left over from who knows what, and I let them glue those down. This is a very adaptable project. You can use whatever you have. The important thing is they're getting to develop their skills, play a little, make some decisions. If you've got extra time, again, you can go back to those videos, or you can play with shape toys. And I will talk more about the shape toys later. So what are they learning? Well, they're learning to cut, color, and glue, which are important skills, but they're also learning how your classroom works. How do you pass out the supplies? How do you clean up? What is the volume level that you expect from them? How are they supposed to sit? Where are they supposed to sit? This is a good time to work on sharing. And of course, how your artwork is collected. Are they taking it home? Are they putting it in a bin? I usually put the student's name on it for at least the first semester. I learned the hard way that first semester kindergartners cannot write their own names. So this whole series is just a great time to establish your classroom routines that are going to last for the next 6 years. So they come back week 2 and they're ready for square and rectangle. We have the regular videos that we watch, the upbeat and the mellow. Then I also have Storybots has got a great squares and a great rectangle. If you need more, this one's pretty good too. You're going to talk about squares and rectangles. You might want to draw shapes on the board and find shapes in the room. And this is very easy because your tables are probably square or rectangle. The door, the board, you most likely have ceiling tiles and floor tiles. Very easy to spot squares and rectangles. And again, you're exercising your procedures for having discussions, raising your hand, teaching them how you conduct class in your room. For our activity, you're just going to need a paper with a grid on it. I use 1-inch squares. And you're going to need a whole bunch of paper, which is cut into rectangles and squares that are going to fit into this grid. You get your glue and let them make some art. We're not going for perfection and we're not going for uniformity. We're going for exploration and experimentation. Let them do it their own way. Some kids are going to be all over the place. Some kids are going to be very precise. And this is a great opportunity to find out about your kids. Who has high skills, who needs to keep working on them, who is fastidious, and who is going to have a meltdown if they don't get to finish their project before time is up. Here are some samples of my kids' work. You can see everybody's different, and I've let some triangles and circles slip in there in my supplies, but you can see they're interpreting this for themselves, doing what they want to do, and that is important. Up to this point, they have probably been handed pre-cut materials and told exactly where to place them to make a Santa face or some other predetermined picture. And now it's time to break away from that and do their own thing. With the extra time, we play with square toys. Again, I'm going to talk more about my toys later, but for this, I put a bucket of mixed square toys on everybody's table. I've got these square magnet blocks and some Rubik's cubes and these infinity cubes. These tessellations are made with all different little squares. Some kids have no interest in this, and some kids totally get lost in them. Math manipulatives are also excellent items to have in the classroom. And what are they learning? What kind of glue do you use? How do you use it? I'm a fan of glue stick. They really enjoy sorting. That's why I like to give them just piles of different shapes and in multicolors so they can pick out what they want. And alignment. Now, that's not that important for me for this project, but they are in a stage of their life that everything they do, everything they're handed is going to have lines and boxes on it. And in their math class and in their writing class, they are learning to put things in the right space and make them the right size. So this can be a really good way to support that visualization and getting their hands to put their marks in the spot that the paper is designed for. Moving on to triangles. Your videos, discuss your triangles, draw the shapes on the board. Of course, Storybots has got a good triangle song, and Sesame Street also has a good triangle video. Grover thinks all triangles have to be the same, but Rosita teaches him that there are all sorts of different triangles. Then we're going to look for hidden triangles. Now, the triangle lesson is all about finding triangles hidden from us. In addition to being able to recognize very obvious shapes like the table and the door or our rectangles, we want them to start being able to see and visualize shapes that are not so clearly delineated. So the first thing we do is we are going to find the hidden triangles in this strip of paper. So what I do is I walk around the room handing out these strips of paper and I say, here's your triangle, here's a triangle for you, I'm going to give a triangle to you, and very quickly I'm getting pushback. These are not triangles, Mrs. Wineland. This isn't a triangle. And I say, really? Are you sure that there aren't any triangles there? So I get out my scissors, and I sort of go table to table while I do this so they can see it up close. Oh, there's a triangle, and I cut that off. Oh, there's one. Oh, I see another triangle hiding in there. Can you see any triangles hiding in your paper? And then all these little triangles are falling all over their table. This is an important step in visualization of not just being handed something, of not saying, I need a triangle, I don't have any triangles, but understanding how you can make the shape that you need. And so we just take a few minutes and just cut up our paper into a pile of triangles, or not so good triangles. And you can glue those down to paper if you want. I also have a whole bunch of coloring sheets that I've drawn. I have each one of these cut apart about the size of an index card. They can choose whatever pictures they want to color, and they can cut them out and glue them down. But while they're working on this, I'm coming around the room and I'm asking, where is the triangle hidden? Can you show me your triangle? Where is their triangle? And in some of these, like, the cat, they might see some of the triangles, but not all of them. Sometimes I ask them to count how many triangles are in this picture. Like the kite has a lot, the bird, the cat. We want to practice recognizing shapes that are not so clearly defined with perfect hard edges. This is going to help with drawing skills in learning to look at things we want to draw as a series of shapes. So what did we learn this week? Cutting and coloring, always working on those skills, but also recognizing real shapes all around us. Now we're up to circles and ovals. I like this particular video because it's showing real world circles. Of course, Storybots always has a good video. You're going to discuss the circles and ovals, maybe draw the shapes on the board, find shapes in the room, and if you're having trouble, faces are good, glasses, eyes, fingernails can be ovals. You can even say that their belly button is a circle. That will get a good laugh. Buttons are circles, and if you look at the end of your pencil, you can see a circle. I've got a little slideshow where I identify things that are circles around us that are ovals. Now on to our project. I actually have 2 project suggestions for your circles, depending on whether you are ready for painting or not. If your students are ready for painting, I suggest dot painting. You need some of these circular foam brushes. Tempera paint works, so does liquid watercolor, and you just need some paper. When I'm painting with tempera, I like to use the construction paper is fine. And they are just going to paint their little dots. Of course, the challenge here is to get them to focus on making the dots and not drawing with the brush. This is an opportunity to teach your students your painting procedure. Do they have aprons? Where are they kept? How do you put them on? What about cleanup? What is your sink procedure? Or are you handing out individual wipes? And the drying rack. So dot painting is a great way. Of course, they're always eager to paint, but it's a great way to introduce painting on a controlled small project. When I'm doing this, I don't have everybody painting at the same time. I have everybody put on their aprons and then sit at their seats, engage them with some coloring, and then call them to the painting table, just 6 or 7 at a time. That's right by the drying rack. And so I can sort of walk them through this individually to teach them the expectations. And then at the end, we all take our aprons off at the same time, put them away the way I want them put away, and then go through our hand washing. If you are not ready, or if you're on a cart or don't want to deal with paint, the stickers is great as well. So you're just going to need circle stickers, which are very cheap to buy in quantity. Crayons, pencils. This is a great time to introduce markers. I usually don't let my kids have markers until later in the year, but markers show up better for this project. So this is a great time to introduce your method for making sure the caps stay with the markers. You're going to introduce the concept. I usually give everybody an index card with a dot on it. And I say, what do you think this can be? What does this look like to you? And then we all make it into a sun. Or I might give them these 3 dots. What do you see here? What do you think this could be? I made it into a bug. And then I have 7 or 8 different examples of different drawings you can do with different dots. And after the stoplight, they get right away. So after we've all done it together, I give them free rein, and it lets them do some visualization and practice their drawing. And of course, everybody loves stickers. So here's some of my kids' work, and I also have some circle and oval coloring. So this is what I have them work on when it's not their turn to paint. What are they learning? Principally, they're learning your setup and procedures for painting. Okay, stencils. This is my favorite week. I have a lot of stencils in my room. Kids keep using them all the way up through 5th grade. Let me tell you why I think teaching with stencils is so important. Number one, it builds confidence and it helps develop control. But number two, the stencil is going to be their earliest tool. Have you ever asked kids to use a ruler and find that they can't do it? They can't hold it still. They can't trace along the line. Start with the stencils. This is going to lead to better ruler use, which is going to lead to the protractors, which is going to lead to the compasses. Using tools is a very important skill, and stencils are a great way to engage with that. This is one thing in your art class, of many, that they will need in their everyday lives. Just this weekend, my husband and I put up several shelves, and we were using T-squares, rulers, and templates. You use your pencil on your stencil. Now, you could call that a template or a shape or a tracer, but I call them stencils because it rhymes with pencil. And what they're working on here is being able to hold the stencil still with one hand while tracing with the other. They're not all going to get there. In fact, most of them are not going to get there as kindergartners, but it's a great start. And they love it. They just totally get lost in this project. Here are some of my friends using different kinds of stencils that I have in my room. The thing we're focusing on here is not all shapes have names. Not all shapes are regular. Everything is made out of shapes. There are shapes all around you. And also, as far as the stencil goes, the stencil is just the beginning. You're not finished. Afterwards, you need to add details and color. The stencil is a tool to help you start your drawing, but it is not the finished drawing. What are they learning? Stencil use, essentially. Now let's talk about shape toys. I have tons of toys. But even if you don't have space or money for that, building blocks are an excellent resource to have. They're great for early finishers. You can use them to teach symmetry. But in terms of young people learning about shapes, how they fit together, size, proportion, balance, you just can't beat a set of building blocks. I also have a number of magnetic toys that I keep in a big bucket together. You know, how to build things, how shapes work and form, how shapes and forms work together is not something you can teach from the board. It's something they have to put their hands on. And for a smaller budget and less space, math manipulatives from geometry class are perfect. Cheap, durable, fun. And here are some uses of my many shape toys in my room. This isn't even half of them. This is just the ones I had pictures of. And if you enjoyed this, you might also take a look at my video on shape pictures. This is the project I do with shapes for 1st grade. And this is on my Heidi How channel. Okay, so we'll finish off with some teaching tips. I do this at the beginning of the year, so remember, these kids are just babies. They are just learning to come into a room, sit down, face forward. This is an excellent series because it's so easy and so low impact, and the demands on them and you are pretty low. This is an excellent time and ease them into the sort of regularity and uniformity that they're going to need to succeed in school. Be prepared to repeat yourself. One, because they're babies and they get distracted. But also, children this age really love repetition. So showing the same videos every week, especially if you do a little dance, is going to be something that they love. Having the same routine of we watch the video and then we draw it on the board and then we have our discussion is going to be something that really builds their confidence. And you got to let them move around, especially if you have a 40 or 50-minute class. At this point, they're not quite ready to get up and get their own supplies, but I do have them move around at cleanup time, putting their own materials away. Like I showed you, I have a lot of different toys and we are always busy with the cutting, coloring, gluing. I'm a tab teacher, so all of my lessons are geared towards independent thinking, independent work. Now, of course, you're teaching them rules and procedures, but as much as possible, let them make their own decisions about which pictures they choose to color, where they put them on the paper, what colors they use, and rather than telling them what to do, ask them what they're doing. We're not worried about perfection. We are not worried about cute matching finished projects. What I'm looking for in this series is establishing expectations and encouraging creativity and building confidence so that when we move through our curriculum this year in kindergarten and also all 6 years till we get through 5th grade, that they are going to know how to move through the art room and how to meet school expectations, but also that they are free to create and express and experiment and make their own art their own way. I am posting my entire curriculum online, but if you like and subscribe, then you are more likely to get notifications in your feed that I have posted something new. I'm Heidi Howe, and this has been Kindergarten Shapes.